John Birch Society Report. George Washington stated, "Truth will ultimately prevail where pain is taken to bring it to light." Truth is the major weapon of the John Birch Society Report. We will return after these words from our sponsor. The John Birch Society Report presents this weekly broadcast to bring you commentary and analysis of today's events. Our commentator today is Mr. Thomas J. Anderson, President and Editor-in-Chief of Southern Farm Publications. Mr. Anderson is well known as a columnist and humorist and the recipient of the Liberty Award of the Congress of Freedom. Mr. Anderson.
Many years ago, a wise philosopher came to this country seeking the answer to the question, wherein lies the greatness and genius of America? This was his answer, quote, "I sought for the greatness and genius of America in her commodious harbors and her ample rivers, and it was not there. I sought in the fertile fields and boundless forest, in her rich mines and vast world commerce, and it was not there. I sought for the greatness and genius of America in her democratic Congress and her matchless Constitution, and it was not there. Not until I went into the churches of America and heard her pulpits aflame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her genius and power. America is great because America is good, and if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great." Close quote. America is now in an advanced state of moral decay. A recent FBI report shows that crime in this country set a new record last year and is increasing 4 times as fast as the population, and it will doubtless continue to increase 4 times as fast after the slums and poverty are wiped out. Most of the crime in America is committed by young people, and most of the increase is among teenagers. Does President Johnson read FBI reports? There are many reasons to wonder. When asked a while back about loosening of morals among today's young people, the 56-year-old president replied, quote, "From my observation, there's been an improvement in morals since my day." Close quote. Let him speak for himself. Almost 1 million youngsters under 18 are arrested each year, mostly for petty crimes. Several national magazine articles have described the, quote, "new attitude," close quote, of college administrations, which permit boys to bring girls to their dormitory rooms. The boy hangs his tie on the outside doorknob when they are making out. Today's campus morality will be tomorrow's public morality. Listen to this quotation. "The difficulty with Western society's legitimate regulation of sexual conduct is that it has been far too negative and far too monolithic. Our culture declares that all sexual activity within marriage is legal, proper, and good, while any such activity outside marriage is illicit, sinful, and wrong. This is to ignore the personal dimension of life, to seek to force everyone under one massive legal umbrella. You and I know perfectly well that there are many marriages that are simply matters of convenience, that such sex as goes on with them is selfish, exploitative, and evil. We know further that there is sexual contact between unmarried couples that is motivated by love, and which is pure and on occasion beautiful. That is why we get confused." Close quote. What do you think that is? A quote from an ad for the movie Cleopatra? From Elizabeth Taylor? No. The above quotation is from a pamphlet published for the United Christian Youth Movement by the National Council of Churches. Doubtless many teenagers were glad to get the word, and from their church magazine. J. Edgar Hoover has said, quote, "Sex-mad magazines are creating criminals faster than jails can be built to house them." I believe pornography is a major cause of sex violence. It seems to me that the peddler who assaults our children's minds is as clearly a sexual offender as a man who molests a child's body. Close quote. All the trash that tourists used to smuggle back from Europe is now easily accessible in America. Pornographic magazines are dispensed by thousands of newsstands whose owners lamely excuse themselves by saying they have to take their allotment of the girlies to get the legitimate magazines. The real answer is that these druggists and newsstand operators would sell or do anything for a profit, unless there were a likely fine and imprisonment involved. Another habitual excuse offered by these amoral hawkers is that they don't have time to read everything on their newsstands. If they served some time, they would. In the Lady Chatterley's lover case in 1959, the extreme court declared, quote, "The Constitution protects advocacy of the opinion that adultery may sometimes be proper," close quote. This is the same Warren Court which has ruled for the communists in virtually every decision involving communists, and which has changed the freedom of religion guaranteed by the First Amendment to our Constitution to freedom from religion. Christmas nativity scenes have been banned in many schools as a result of that decree. Let us pray that the court which has removed Christ will itself be removed, although mere impeachment is too good for most of the present members of the Supreme Court. Our entertainment world is also greatly responsible for the erosion of morality. The world's highest paid actress cohabitated worldwide with the husband of another woman in a brazen display of adultery, while the people cheered and flocked to her movies. Under the guise of realism, the unprincipled, money-grubbing movie industry is making movies dirtier than ever, a complete exploitation of sex, often perverted sex. It could formally be said that the movie magnates would do anything for $1. With inflation, they'll now do anything for $1.98. One of the greatest blows which could be struck for morality would be for those immoral movies and immoral stars to be stupendous financial failures. Let's each do our part. Stalin once said that if he could control Hollywood, he could take over this country in 20 years. Well, he took most of Hollywood. And what is infinitely more important, communist sympathizers and fellow travelers are taking over network TV. TV slyly undermines God, family, honor, morality, and patriotism. Extremist, patriotism-hating Senator Fulbright has recently pontificated, quote, "We must recognize that the secular Puritanism which we have practiced, with its principles of absolute good, absolute evil, and intolerance of dissent, has been an obstacle to the practice of democracy at home and the conduct of an effective foreign policy," close quote. Fulbright put that philosophy into play when he voted against the Civil Rights Bill. This was one of the most insincere, hypocritical votes ever recorded in the Senate. This collectivist one-worlder, who has stated that the Constitution is an outdated instrument and should be bypassed, abandoned his convictions in the case of the Civil Rights Bill because he was afraid of the Arkansas voters. Yet the leftists screamed bigot at honest Barry Goldwater when he voted against the Civil Rights Bill because he thought it was unconstitutional. The agnostic pragmatists who call themselves liberals have taught a generation of children that, 1, there are no clear distinctions between right and wrong. 2, that there are no eternal verities, no absolute truth. 3, that environment determines truth. And since environment constantly changes, everything is relative. 4, that life adjustment, not inculcation of principles and disciplines, is the aim of education. 5, that patriotism is out of date. These Freudianist frauds further proclaim that we are not responsible, that man is a product of his heredity and his environment, and you cannot expect him to rise above it. Our immoral socialists, convinced that virtually all problems are material, think that they can set things right by giving your grandchildren seed corn to the underprivileged. Thus we pour endless billions into Harlem ghettos, into Appalachia pockets of poverty, and into the bottomless bellies of the world. Along a lonely trail in a western desert, a can had been wired to an old pump. In the can was a message written with a stub of pencil on 2 sides of a sheet of wrapping paper. It said, "This is your only chance for water along this trail. The pump is all right as of June 1932. I put a new sucker washer into it, and it ought to last 5 years. But the washer dries out, and the pump has got to be primed. Under the white rock, I buried a bottle of water, out of the sun and cork end up. There's enough water in it to prime this pump, but not if you drink some first. Pour in about 1/4 and let her soak to wet the leather. Then pour in the rest, medium fast, and pump like hell. You'll get water. The well never has run dry yet. Have faith. When you get watered up, fill the bottle and put it back like you found it for the next fella. Signed, Desert Pete. And then there was a P.S. which said, don't go drinking up the water first. Prime the pump with it, and you'll get all you can hold. And next time you want something, remember that life is like this pump. It has to be primed. I've given my last dime away a dozen times to prime my pump, and I fed my last beans to a stranger. It never failed to get me an answer. You got to get your heart fixed to give before you can be give to. Signed, Pete.
We want to thank all those who've taken time to listen to the John Birch Society Report, which has again focused attention on important subjects directly involving you. Our commentator today has been Thomas J. Anderson. If you would like a copy of today's message, please send 50 cents for one copy or $1 for 3 copies to the John Birch Society Report, San Marino, California. Please enclose a stamped, self-addressed envelope. Ask for transcript number 39.